When people think of a dystopian takeover, they imagine massive armies, sudden explosions, and overnight revolutions. But Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale paints a far more insidious and terrifying picture of how a society collapses. She shows us that tyrannies do not announce themselves. They creep in quietly, using the excuse of safety and moral decay to strip away rights so slowly that by the time you realize you are in a cage, the door has already been locked. Published in 1985, Atwood made a strict rule for this novel. She would not invent any atrocities. Every terrifying law, punishment, and system of control in the Republic of Gilead is something that a human government has actually done at some point in real history. The story takes place in a near-future United States that has been overthrown by a totalitarian, theocratic regime called Gilead. The environment is heavily polluted, birth rates have plummeted to near zero, and society is in a state of panic. To save humanity, an extremist group assassinates the president, blames it on terrorists, suspends the Constitution, and immediately freezes the bank accounts of all women. In a matter of weeks, women are stripped of their jobs, their property, and their autonomy. The fertile women who remain are forced into sexual servitude as handmaids for the ruling class, known as commanders. They are stripped of their real names. The protagonist, Offred, is literally named of Fred, signifying that she is nothing more than his property. The true horror of Gilead is not just the physical violence, it is the psychological conditioning. Atwood masterfully demonstrates how language is used as a weapon of ultimate control. In Gilead, women are forbidden to read or write. The regime replaces everyday vocabulary with strictly controlled religious terminology. Stores have pictures instead of words on their signs. By shrinking the vocabulary, the government shrinks the capacity for complex thought. If you do not have the words to describe freedom, rebellion, or solidarity, it becomes infinitely harder to organize a resistance. The state controls the mind by controlling the tongue. Furthermore, Atwood highlights the terrifying concept of complicity. Gilead does not run solely on the power of men. It relies heavily on women oppressing other women. The ants are older, infertile women given a tiny shred of power to brutalize, indoctrinate, and police the handmaids. By dividing the oppressed into hierarchies and giving one group a slight advantage over the other, the regime ensures that the victims police themselves. The ants wield cattle prods and justify their cruelty by telling the handmaids they are protecting them from the dangerous, chaotic freedom of the past. The most chilling line in the entire novel is when Offred remembers how the takeover happened. She says, "Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it." Atwood's warning is clear. Do not wait for the tanks to roll down the street. Tyranny begins when we trade our autonomy for the illusion of safety. It begins when we allow words to be banned. It begins when we look at minor injustices and say, it's only temporary. The Handmaid's Tale is not a prediction of the future. It is a mirror reflecting the darkest capabilities of human history, warning us that the ice we stand on is much thinner than we think.